On today's show, we're going to check out 5 players that Denver could trade up for in this upcoming NFL draft, and one guy Denver might already be eyeing for a potential trade up. So that's what's on tap for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Matthew Peterson here from the Broncos Breakdown. Also, quickly reminding you, if you're looking for more NFL draft coverage, be sure to visit our exclusive NFL Draft YouTube channel here at Chat Sports. Go to youtube.com/chatnfl. That link's in the comments and the description of today's show, so make sure you give them a visit. Now, with that being said, let's jump into this show. Broncos trade up candidates. I've got 5 players that Denver could fall in love with in the pre-draft process and decide, you know what? This is someone we want to go out and get, right? This is not someone we want to risk seeing if they fall to us at pick 67. We want to get our guy, and if that means giving up more picks when, look at it. Denver right now, we'll throw it on screen for you, only has 5 picks in this upcoming draft. So it definitely feels like a long shot, maybe not just a long shot, unlikely, that they take 2 picks or 3 picks to move up some spots. But I don't think you can rule anything out, right? George and Sean Payton have proven that they are not going to be passive head coaches and GMs. They are going to be aggressive, and if they want someone, they are going to get someone. So let's check out 5 players that Denver might be looking at in this upcoming draft to go out and get and move up to do. Now, some background here. When it comes to moving up in the draft, if the Broncos combine their 67th and 68th overall pick, that lands them in the 50-ish overall range. So if they bundle their 2/3, they can move to the middle to late second round and jump up 15, 17-ish spots, somewhere in that range. So with that being said, let's visit number 1 candidate. That is Byron Young, the edge rusher out of Tennessee. Now, some background information on Byron Young, and I'm going to warn you guys right now, ESPN, they're going to need to change their pants for how many times they talk about his rough upbringing. So, the Broncos reportedly brought him in for a top 30 pre-draft visit. By rough upbringing, I mean rough path to Tennessee. Now, he was a 2-year starter for the Volunteers. He is not a phenomenal run stopper, which when I'm looking in day 2, I am hoping to find someone who's more than just a pass rusher on occasion. But last season for the Vols, 37 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 7 sacks. He's a 2-year starter at Tennessee, like I said. But he's got a phenomenal, very motivating story to how he got to the SEC. So, he was originally a no-star recruit. He went to a JUCO-ish school, dropped out of there, worked at a Dollar General store for 18 months, and then he went back to JUCO for 2 seasons, and then transferred to Tennessee and found himself starting for their defensive line, and now he looks to be a 2nd to 3rd round pick in this upcoming draft. Now, Dane Brugler from The Athletic said this on Byron Young. Overall, Young can be engulfed in the run game, and his rush stalls too quickly at contact, but his energy and pass rush flashes lead to backfield plays. Though he has limitations in the run game, he has the potential to make a living as a glorified sub-rusher in the NFL. Now, before I give you more on Byron Young, who do you think Denver should draft first position-wise? Should it be an edge rusher? Should it be a corner? Let me know in the comments section below. I like Byron Young. The Broncos had a pre-draft visit with him, so they clearly have him somewhere on their radar. Whether or not he'll be on the board at pick 67 remains to be seen, but if he starts to slip, this could be someone the Broncos move up to get. Moving on here, after Byron Young, the next candidate is Marvin Mims, wide receiver out of Oklahoma. Yes, he has a relative in the NFL you might have heard of, also a former 2nd round pick. Now, he is a big play machine. He had an average of 20.1 yards per catch last year, by far the most in college football amongst qualifying players. He adds some very much needed speed to this wide receiver room. It's not, a complete slow-mo movie in the wide receiver room. You've got Jerry Jeudy, but Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick, they're not burners, but Mims is. Now, in Mel Kiper's latest 2-round mock draft, he had Mims go 63 overall. So what we're looking at here is not guys Denver could get early in the second round, because they're not going to get too early in the second round. But maybe they move up 10 spots or so because they fall in love with someone like Marvin Mims. And they go, you know what? Let's give up a third and a fourth or a fifth or some other day 3 pick, jump up to 8 to 10 spots and land a player like Mims, who, do we desperately need a wide receiver for this team? I don't think it's really at the top of any teams or any of the Broncos' biggest needs right now. But it is a good reminder, when you look at this wide receiver room for the Broncos, it's a really good wide receiver room when everyone's healthy and everyone's playing up to their expectations or even close to their expectations. The issue is we have not seen them play either all healthy or all living up to their expectations really together ever, right? Jerry Jeudy, slowish start coming out of Alabama. Tim Patrick missed all of last season. And there's an Amber Alert out for Courtland Sutton ever since he got that contract extension. So this could be a Courtland Sutton replacement if he does not improve in 2023. And they look at Mims and they go, we don't desperately need a wide receiver right now, but we think he could be the real deal, right? We think he could be something special. So you know what? Let's go out and let's draft a potential replacement if Sutton is sluggish in 2023. Now, we are trying to reach 14,000 subscribers here at the channel by the time the NFL draft rolls around. We're 790 away. Now, I'm not sure there's 790 people watching right now who have not subscribed, but I know there's a good chunk of you out there. So let's start chipping away at it, baby. Like I like to say, when you bet the over, every single basket, point, or goal counts. So every single sub counts. So make sure to subscribe if you have not already. Now, getting back to our trade-up candidates. At number 3, it is the center out of Minnesota, Michael Schmits. I mean, just look at him. Beautiful smile right there. But he's not smiling when he's hiking the ball to Russell Wilson. He's a first-team All-American, All-Big Ten player for Minnesota in 2022. He was a 4-year starter for the Gophers, so he's got plenty of experience. This is not a project pick, right? This is not someone who needs to be coached up. He is going to step in and be a starter on an NFL team. And he might be the final piece of the puzzle for fixing the Broncos' offensive line after signing Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey. Center is really the last spot they need to address. Now, PFF last year, hard-ons for Michael Schmits. 92.3 overall grade. Pass blocking is 81. But that run blocking, something that Lloyd Cushenberry has just not excelled at, 92.4. This might not be a splashy pick, right? I get it. It's an interior offensive lineman. Those aren't cornerstone pieces for franchises. But you know what it is? It's a safe pick, and it's a reliable pick for an important position. A spot that Russell Wilson has never had great success at in terms of long-lasting relationships and just overall repetitiveness with his center from Seattle over to Denver now. So if it means you move up, 8-10 spots similar to Marvin Mims, I'm not really all that opposed to it. Now we're going to look at some more draft trade-up targets in just a moment. But speaking of the NFL draft, you know it's coming. The official 2023 Broncos draft hat. If you have not gotten yours already, I just don't want you to miss out because the deal is not going to last forever. So go to chatsports.com/Broncos draft. That link's in the comments and the description of today's show. Get the official 2023 NFL draft hat for your Denver Broncos today when you use that link. Moving on here, after Michael Schmits, it is cornerback from South Carolina. This is Cam Smith. Quietly, I feel like South Carolina is becoming DBU because they've had a lot of good corners lately, and they have some good ones in this draft. Now, I went compliment sandwich here for Cam Smith, right? Pro, con, pro. The first pro is excellent arm length, and that's something you do look for in DBs because, I mean, that's what she said, but an extra inch could mean a lot when it comes to a pass breakup or a touchdown. He had 24 pass breakups for the Gamecocks. The con is, despite his biggest success or his biggest strength is also his biggest weakness. Because he has such long arms, he finds himself draping those long arms around wide receivers' hips and whatnot, and he was penalized a ton last year because he abuses that arm length and he finds himself getting his hands in places where they do not belong. Now, another pro is he's got plenty of experience for South Carolina. You look at his coverage stats last season, 2 touchdowns allowed, under 50% completion percentage, 5 pass breakups, and 1 interception. He was a very productive player for them for quite a long time. Now, where would he slot in here? You could potentially move him to slot after K'Wan Williams is maybe gone after this season because he's on the last year of his contract. Or you can let Damari Mathis and Cam Smith battle it out for the other CB2 job. Because Damari Mathis last year, he had a lot of good tape. He had a lot of optimism to go, you know what, that could be a starting corner in the NFL for the Broncos for the next couple of years. But he had some WTF games where you're like, this is not someone we can just bank on and check the box and move on here. He needs some coaching. He needs to refine his technique a little bit. But in round 2, to find that lengthy of a corner, those guys don't grow on trees. So this could be a very sneaky good pick if Denver wants to move up a couple spots to get him. He's a ball hawk. He had a lot of interceptions and pass breakups at South Carolina. That could be something that Denver wants to see come over to the Rocky Mountains. Moving on to our 5th and final trade-up candidate. It is the edge rusher from Auburn, Alabama, Derrick Hall. Now, Derrick Hall, he has quite the story in terms of his, just overall life. He was born premature. Read Dane Brugler's right up on him. It is eye-opening to see what he went through to get where he is now. Now, he was a first-team All-SEC player last year, and he led the Tigers in tackles for loss and sacks, a 3-year starter for them. Now, I'm not quite sure if he would be a defensive end in a 3-4 front, right? A Jonathan Harris, a 5 technique, or if he would be an outside linebacker. And even Jonathan Harris really isn't a 5 technique, if we're being honest. So, Derrick Hall for Auburn last season, 60 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Auburn was a disaster of a program last season, but he was one of the very few bright spots that they had. So when it comes to where he would fit in on Denver's front 5, you've signed Zach Allen, and they are expecting a lot out of him because they cannot bank on Randy Gregory and Baron Browning to be there healthy and consistent forever. So the Broncos are one injury away from Randy Gregory or Baron Browning from having a big problem on their hands, where they have to rely on redshirt Nick Benito last year, newcomer Jacob Martin, who didn't show as much last year after getting traded, or 7th-round pick Jonathan Cooper. So adding some more depth and adding a guy who could take over and be a permanent fixture on this defensive line or as an outside linebacker, that's pretty tempting, and that'd be hard to pass up on. Plus, Derrick Hall is just a really good player. Now, that is it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing down below. Helps us grow our channel and get you guys more Broncos content.